Growing Up White. It's Weird. Book 1, Chapter 7. Cakes. Cakes rock and roll. Cakes of the stars. Cake art. This one might take a little more than just one chapter, but let's just see how far we get. Okay, time for a recap. My dad is dead. My mom is dead. My beloved guinea pig, Fifi, is dead. Devoured by the snake of the guy who raped me. I was bullied by the manager at the bakery. At another bakery, I worked with a German master baker who was a big fan of Adolf Hitler. I was visited by a ghost in the night while in Hawaii. I was mistaken to be a little girl. Hence, my mother wrote on a picture, "My little girl." I discovered my father's gun and his Playboy magazines. My younger brother, he is also dead, but we have not gotten to him yet. I spent age 10 to age 28 in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, in my little white suburban neighborhood. After graduating high school at 18, I wasn't really doing too much. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, which was pretty typical for the 70s. I had been working in restaurants since age 12. There were even times when I delivered newspapers, I delivered pizzas, and I worked in a steak and hoagie shop, making cheesesteaks and hoagies, which again is pretty much typical for growing up white. Not so weird. As you might recall, I knew how to play the drums, and I joined a couple bands after graduating from high school. I would put ads in the paper to see if anyone needed a drummer to sit in or join their band temporarily. I was in a handful of bands. One of those one-night gigs was for some sailors who worked at the Naval Hospital. They were medical personnel, and they were having a Halloween party in 1978, and they just needed a drummer to play the party. So I went down with my drum kit, auditioned, they liked me, and then we started rehearsing for maybe about a month to get ready for the Halloween gig. And we played all cover songs by rock bands who were popular at the time. One song we played, "Stairway to Heaven" from Led Zeppelin, which was a highlight for me because I was a fan of Led Zeppelin, and I had a drum kit just like John Bonham. Now, to let you know, I was nowhere near as good as John Bonham, but I loved his kit and I loved his playing, and I would practice to Led Zeppelin songs, wearing my earphones and playing along to the record. Some of my favorites, Black Dog, Rock and Roll, and of course, Stairway to Heaven. In the song, there is an instrument that sounds like maybe a woodwind of some kind, but it's actually played by John Paul Jones on his organ. However, we didn't have that in the band I was in. The woman keyboard player actually played it on a flute, and the crowd went wild. So we had a guitar singer, a bass player, a woman on the keyboards and the flute, and me on drums. Now, this is not the first time I was at the Naval Hospital around military medical personnel. You see, I had my appendix out when I was 16. Okay, here's that story. Let's go back to when I was born. I was born and I had convulsions for the first 5 years of my life. There were times that my mother told me I would roll around on the floor and try to swallow my tongue by having a convulsion. She would have to take a ruler, stick it in my mouth, and stop me from swallowing my tongue. I was on medication, phenobarbital and Dilantin, for the first 5 years of my life. Then, for the next 5 years, they would monitor me. And then every now and then, I would have to go to the hospital for some kind of medical procedure. I remember laying on a table, and the one time they took these electrodes, put them on the outside of my head with little sticky dots on them, and they would monitor my brainwaves. Later, another time when they did that, instead of little sticky things, they took little needles and poked them into my head to read the brainwaves. Luckily, I grew out of the convulsions. Okay, now my appendix. I was having abdominal pains. I didn't know what it was, so my father took me to the Naval Hospital. The thing about the military is this. Once you're in, and then you retire after, say, your 20 years, you get lifetime medical coverage, and your children, I believe up until the age of 18, also get free medical coverage. But it has to be at one of the military facilities. The Naval Hospital was only about 30 minutes away, so that's where I went for all my medical checkups. Okay, so I had abdominal pain. I go in, they don't know what it is, so they do something called a lower GI series, where you get naked, you put one of those robe things on, you lie on a table, and they take a tube like an enema, stick it up your rectum. It's connected to another tube that goes into a large bag filled with pink liquid. And the pink liquid gets put into your intestines, and they look at it on an x-ray machine. Now, here's the thing about things going into your rectum, especially a large bag of liquid. My body did not want something going into its rectum. It liked everything coming out of my rectum. So we would get halfway through the procedure, and I would just release all the liquid. Then they would have to fill it up again, try it again. They did this about 2 or 3 times until they got the results. Then the next procedure was an upper GI, a lot easier. You drink this pink chalky liquid, kind of like a Pepto-Bismol. And again, they look at your stomach in an x-ray and try to see what's there. The final result was inconclusive. They had no idea why I was getting abdominal cramps. However, when I met another doctor at the Naval Hospital, he said to me, okay, get up on that stool. It's about maybe a foot high. It's like a step stool that you would step onto when you get on one of those examining tables with the white paper on it. Okay, so I get up on that. He says, okay, turn around. I want you to jump off that stool and land on your heels. And I'm thinking, okay, sure, sounds easy enough. I jump off the stool, land on my heels, then fall flat face onto the floor because I am in so much pain. He looks at me, looks at my parents, and said, we're taking him into surgery right away. It's his appendix. So they take me upstairs to the ward. Now, the ward is in a naval hospital, a very long hallway. There were beds lined up next to each other, maybe about 4 feet in between them, no privacy. Remember, this is the Navy. These are all guys, and they're all sailors. I'm this young 16-year-old kid just coming up there getting prepped for surgery. An orderly comes around, sits down on my bed, and says, okay, I've got to prep you, shave you for surgery. And look, I'm 16. I don't know what that means, but I have to be naked when they operate on me. So he has to shave my lower area. I mean, he has to shave the hair around my penis. I'm 16. I'm lucky I have peach fuzz on my face. So it's like, okay, sure, if that's what you have to do, sure. It's a little weird, but that's what they do. So I get shaved. I get the IV. They take me down to surgery. They put a mask on me so I fall asleep. 5 seconds after the mask goes on me, I pull it off and throw up. Of course, they say, this is a good thing you do it now instead of while you're under. So I throw up, I feel better, they put the mask on, I count backwards from 100, maybe I get to 97, 96. Next thing you know, I'm back in the ward, in the bed, groggy, waking up. And around me, all these other guys who are sailors. One thing I learned about sailors, they like to make jokes. Dirty jokes. Talk dirty. And this one sailor, who was a patient there, he was black, had a habit of trying to crack me up, make me laugh. And I said to him one day, as I'm walking around holding my stitches, why are you trying to make me laugh? So you can burst your stitches. Yeah. So for about a week of recovery, I got to hang out with all these older guys, all these sailors, listen to their dirty jokes. And, it was really a lot of fun. I laughed, but I did not burst my stitches. Okay, so back to the Naval Hospital and the band. The gig went really well. All their sailor friends loved the band, loved the songs, they had a great time, and then we were done. At the end of the night, the bass player says to me, listen, I got to get up early in the morning. Can you do me a favor and take my date home? So I look over and there's a woman, a young lady. I was 18 at the time. She was maybe 20, 21. And I said, sure, okay, I could do that. So he introduces me to Valerie. And I say, okay, let me load my drums in the car and I would take you home. Well, she lived 45 minutes away up I-95 in Northeast Philadelphia, the Great Northeast, as it was known. I had never been up there. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know where I was going, but she was nice. And look, she was attractive too. And here I am in my Kiss drummer makeup. So she doesn't know what I look like, but I can see what she looks like. So I drive her home and we park outside where she lives. She's living with her grandparents. Later, I came to find out that she was on the rebound. Her boyfriend back in South Dakota, who was also in a band, he was the lead singer, broke up with her. So she decided she needed a change. So she left South Dakota to go to Philadelphia and stay with her grandparents for a while. Okay, this is going to sound a little weird, but I don't know how this happened. But all of a sudden, we're kissing. We're basically making out. And she does something that I have never had done before. And let's just say that it was, okay, she gave me oral sex. Well, look, the bass player in the band is not my friend. It was just a one-night gig. I would never see them again. This was just his date for the night. So next thing you know, we're making out. We have a little oral sex in the car. And we become boyfriend and girlfriend. But it doesn't last long. Maybe 9 months. Yeah. Then she dumped me. Look, she was on the rebound. She's about 3 years older than me. I was immature. She was more mature. She kind of knew what she wanted. I had no clue what I wanted. But one thing I did know, I wanted to make cakes, cake art for rock bands that came to the Philadelphia area. Okay, cakes. As you might recall, I started baking and decorating cakes. Originally inspired by my fake aunt, but since I was so good at art, I took cake decorating to another level. So, how did I end up making cakes for people like, and I need to drop some names, Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, Elton John, David Bowie, the Rolling Stones, Queen, Fleetwood Mac, The Cars, Foreigner, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Billy Idol, Peabo Bryson, the Jacksons, Anita Baker, Sheena Easton, and many, many other bands and artists, some you probably never even heard of. So here's how that all began. And what I'm telling you is the absolute truth. It's going to sound weird. I'm just warning you ahead of time. 1979. Now, to let you know, this could not ever happen now, or probably happen at any other time. It was a matter of luck, persistence, and a whole lot of talent. 1979, the summer of 1979, outside of Philadelphia. I got really good at making custom cakes. So, I'm listening to the radio station. The big rock station at the time was WMMR. And I thought to myself, if I want to make cakes for bands that come to town, I need to start somewhere. So I thought, okay, a radio station, they have bands come to the station, they play their songs, they give tickets to concerts. So I picked the top rock station, WMMR, as my starting point. So what do? Well, every radio station has some kind of logo, right? Letters spelled a certain way, a certain font, or certain color. Maybe they even have some kind of icon or mascot. In this case, I got a hold of the WMMR logo and their mascot. So I made a cake exactly like their logo and their mascot. I found their address, where it was. I made the cake. I got in the car and went downtown Philadelphia to the headquarters of WMMR, the radio station. Now, to let you know, you just don't walk into a radio station and say something like, hey, I want to make cakes for rock stars. I mean, really, think about that now. This sounds crazy, right? Well, guess what? That is exactly what I did. And you can guess, they thought I was crazy.